Welcome to episode 25 of The Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy. This Behavioral Economics Foundations episode is all about the sense of smell. Ready? Let's get started.
You are listening to the Brainy Business Podcast, where we dig into the psychology of why people buy and help you incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain-friendly. Now here's your host, Melina Palmer.
Hello, everyone. My name is Melina Palmer, and I want to welcome you to the Brainy Business Podcast. Last week started our series on the five senses, which was kicked off with an episode about the sense of sight. I hope you enjoyed that one. Did you get a chance to check out any of the videos I linked to in the show notes or the complimentary blog posts? If not, you can see them at any time at thebrainybusiness.com/24 and also check out social media profiles where you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter as at the Brainy Biz, B-I-Z. This week, we're moving on to the next of the five senses, smell. And I want to just put it out there now, even if you do not sell physical products or food items, that does not mean that these other senses don't apply to you. So you don't want to skip any of these. The senses are all powerful, and they create memories the brain uses to make decisions. As I explained last week, sight is different than vision because the brain projects and predicts based on past experience to help you interpret the world around you. It does the same with other senses as well. Past associations influence the way the brain interacts with all sorts of stimuli, and you can integrate any of these into any sort of business, which I will get into in more detail in today's episode. But before we get to that, it's time for shoutouts. First, I've already mentioned Casey Gromer on the show. She is a virtual CMO and just launched her book, A Fresh Wave of Marketing. She was so generous with her sharing and included posts about the Brainy Business on her Instagram and Facebook page, encouraging people to listen and subscribe to the podcast. She shared the reciprocity episode, which is where she got her first shout out, and mentioned in her post that our quick virtual coffee chat turned into a 90-minute conversation. And honestly, I think we could have kept talking for hours if given the opportunity. If you like the movie Christmas Vacation, you should absolutely check her out on social media. I've linked to her Instagram again to help with that. And thanks again for the shares, Casey. I appreciate you. This next shout out is for Nicole Bandis of Virtual A-Team. I have hired Nicole to help me move email service providers, which has been quite the undertaking, as those of you who've been listening for a while know. With so many podcast episodes and multiple forms and new structure, various emails, she has been great to work with and has really made everything just so easy. Her team can do everything from wordsmithing and Haro scans to video editing and creating online forms and so much more. I love that her Facebook group is called Do It All Aholics Rehab, and the team members that she has have titles of Director of Stuff You Don't Have Time to Do. If you are looking to contract out any services or could use some support in your business, I highly recommend Nicole and her team. They can do projects of any size and don't require long-term commitments, which is great. So you can use them for a block of hours each week, all the way down to just one simple project to start. It's super convenient. That's what I did. And it makes it really great to test out a virtual assistant if you don't have one yet. If you're trying to see, should I source this out? You're able to check it out and make sure it's going to be a good fit for you. There is, of course, a link in the show notes if you want to check out Virtual A-Team. And thanks again, Nicole. So thank you, Nicole and Casey, and to every one of my listeners and social media engagers. I love to hear from you and appreciate you all. And really quick, I just have to do a little celebratory happy dance for episode 25. Can you believe it? I know this is more of an exciting milestone for me than anyone else, but it's so exciting. I just can't believe it. So thank you to everyone who has listened, shared, subscribed, rated, and reviewed over the past 5 months. I know a lot of you have been with me from the very beginning and even before, as I launched the podcast, started talking about it before we even launched in July. So thank you to everyone. I can't wait for the next 25 episodes and so much more. If you love the podcast and have not yet subscribed, rated, or left a review, would you consider it? It's a super easy thing to do, and it really means a lot to me. It also helps others trying to find a podcast on behavioral economics to know where to look and that this is a good one. The benefit for you is that subscribing means you never miss an episode. They download automatically onto your device, which is awesome. And you get them right when they come out. You can simply tap the subscribe button in whatever app you're listening on, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And right there, you can see the stars. If they're not yet filled in, I would appreciate you considering giving them a quick tap. Hopefully you feel 5 stars is appropriate. And you can also click to leave a review. If you do leave a review, keep a listen out on a future episode where you will probably hear me give you a shout out and a link in the show notes to your business, just like I did today for Casey and Nicole. And that's just my way of saying thank you so much. And really the way I get to know who you are is by engaging with me. So I have mentioned the show notes a few times now, and I want to make sure you know where they are and what they are, especially for anyone who's new, in which case, welcome to the podcast. I'm probably not going to talk about them a lot, but know that anytime you think, ooh, that's interesting, and you want to make a note of something to look up a study I mentioned or a past episode, you can find those in the show notes so you don't have to try to remember all those little tidbits and details, which can make it so you can't really absorb and learn everything else. You can find those within the podcast app you're listening to or by visiting thebrainybusiness.com/25 because, as you know, this is episode 25. In addition to the links to those who got shout outs in the episode, you will also find links to any referenced or relevant studies, as well as past episodes that are mentioned. So they're super easy for you to find and listen to again, and that you don't have to remember them now, which is always nice. And because this is a foundational episode, there's a free worksheet available for you to download on that same page of the website, thebrainybusiness.com/25. You can just click on the image near the top of the page. And if you want to download it now, that's great. Or you can grab it later if you're out and about. Whenever you use it, it's really helpful to help you reinforce the lessons we talk about here. And that's important for your business. I want you to be able to use the things you learn here on the podcast. If you're already subscribed to the Brainy Business email list, there's a direct link to that freebie in your weekly email from me, which had this episode in it. And that email also has a link to a super secret special freebies page for anyone who is subscribed to the list, so you can access them all without having to sign up a bunch of times. That link is available in any of the emails you get from me and is meant to make it just really simple and easy for you so you don't miss anything. And you can bookmark that. It's not going to change. If you're not yet on the list and would like to be, simply sign up for any of the freebies and you're going to be automatically added to that email list that comes out every Friday. Again, the freebie for this episode is at thebrainybusiness.com/25. And if you're in the States and want to sign up from your phone, simply text the word Brainy, BRAINY, to 345-345 to get on the list. And to say thank you, I will send you a free copy of my ebook, The 10 Behavioral Economics Concepts You Need to Know and How to Apply Them. I've mentioned some of those 10 concepts on the show already, but some of them have not been covered on episodes yet. So there's new information there for sure. All right, that is it for shoutouts and housekeeping items. So let's talk about the sense of smell. The sense of smell is made up of olfactory bulbs, which are part of the limbic system. Unlike the sense of sight, which brings in information that is relayed and interpreted by the brain to produce vision, the sense of smell is one of our oldest senses, and it connects directly to memories and emotions. As infants, smell is one of the first senses we use, and it starts getting really tied to specific emotions and memories when we're around 5 years old. They say 5 to 10 is sort of your smelling peak. This is going to be important later, so heads up on that. Like sight, our sense of smell is developed through evolution to help our species survive. Predators smell bad to us, and prey, also known as food, smells good. Things that can harm us and that we should be scared of, which are naturally occurring, not like guns, but animals and things like that, are likely to have a smell we do not like, quickly alerting the brain to get out of there as soon as possible, which is why scent, like our fight or flight response, is tied to the limbic system. As we developed, we could also use our sense of smell to detect our children in the dark of night, which is pretty cool. I don't think I could do that now. Do you? One big question you probably have, assuming you haven't done much research on smell, is how it works. I've linked to a succinct little YouTube video from TED Education, which gets into all the details of this. But essentially, molecules of items separate from the item in question, like bread baking, and those little pieces travel into our noses and are read by our olfactory epithelium, which are like the taste buds of our noses. And they send a direct message to the brain. Sight, sound, and touch do not have this connection, so they're not as closely linked to memories or emotions as scent is. The process of scent is very closely linked with taste, and having a reduced sense of smell will actually impact the flavor of food, but that is a topic for next week's episode. Adult humans can distinguish between approximately 10,000 unique odors using 40 million different olfactory receptor neurons. As the TED video I linked to explains, the scent of odor A might trigger neurons 3, 427, and 988, and odor B might trigger neurons 8, 76, and 2,496,678. Because it has a direct route to the limbic system, certain scents can trigger that fight or flight, while others bring up vivid memories, and others can make your mouth water. All those different neurons and everything working together, you can see just how complex this can get. With thousands of smells and so many situations, there are many possibilities that are opened up with scent. Scent is also linked to physical attraction, and our noses are trained to like people who are dissimilar to ourselves, which helps with the creation of healthy offspring. That opposite attract might actually start in our noses. If you've ever wondered why you're attracted to the wrong type of person, consider scent as a big reason why. And while it can be linked to a certain cologne, perfume, or soap, it's also on a chemical level. So unfortunately, other than knowing about it, there isn't much to be done in the world of attraction. But over time, we had found before we had really great scientific tests and things like that, that different diseases had different smells. So diabetes was able to have sort of a sweet, sugary smell before we had a way to really test for it, which is fascinating. And as some of you might have heard in the news at different times, there are actually different types of dogs that can smell for cancer and all sorts of different diseases because they have a lot more, as we know, they have a much more keen sense of smell than we do. A really recent study has shown that smell is linked to where, when, and why. And that is why the power of memories and really taking us back can be brought through a powerful scent. While I don't always say the full name of a study on the show, this one is so crazy long and intense, I just feel like I need to share it with you. It was called Hippocampal Projections to the Anterior Olfactory Nucleus Differentially Convey Spatiotemporal Information During Episodic Odor Memory. Whew, talk about a mouthful. You're welcome that I read and interpreted this for you so you don't have to. Anyway, being somewhere can trigger a memory with a scent, and smelling something can just really bring you back there. This can be positive, like the smell of your grandmother's perfume reminding you of her warm hugs, or negative, as some studies have linked soldiers from Vietnam who had their PTSD triggered with really vivid memories at the smell of diesel. And associations can differ from one person to another. For example, in one article, the author said he loves the smell of manure, something many of us would think is repulsive. And for him, it's because it brings up fond memories of being involved in 4-H as a child. So being able to understand how these memories are formed, and some that would likely be positive for everyone, or at least a large portion of the population, could make a difference if you're wanting to use these in your branding or throughout your business. You may wonder if there is a time in our lives where we're more likely to form memories, when they would be the most powerful. I hinted at this a little bit earlier, but the time when most of our scent memories are formed is when we are about the age of 5. Many of our other senses are tied to adolescence, but again, for smell, it's like 5 to 10 years old. That's really the earliest when children are able to really associate their memories with specific times, places, and events. And scent will end up playing a really big role in that. So things that we all love as children, like freshly baked cookies, can be a positive scent whenever we smell them. And that's a reason why they can help to sell homes, where you walk in and it has this really familial family bond, sort of a memory that gets triggered if you smell baking cookies. And yes, I know for any of the realtors listening, I have heard from some of you that this has sort of been overplayed, perhaps, that people think that you're trying to trick them, but it doesn't mean that their brain won't have that automatic sense, even if they think they're turning it off. You know, it's still there at the base. So that's something to keep in mind. But maybe another scent like chocolate or vanilla, which could also be associated with childhood, could have a similar impact if you didn't want to go the full-on cookies route. The ability to form associations does not stop as we get older, though. That same manure-loving author I mentioned a little bit ago talks about his time running as a teenager, which was when Polo cologne was really popular. He said he loved the smell and would really douse himself in it before he would run and visualize the running like as well as a horse, sort of a thing. And so he said to this day, the scent of Polo and sweat makes him feel 17 again. And as shown in that diesel example with the Vietnam veterans, significantly emotional events can tie closer to the sense associated with them because memory, emotions, and sense are linked, and those can have a new connotation come up as time goes on. So you may be more likely to be triggered by something that happened later in life if it was at a particularly traumatizing time, even if you had all of this experience with diesel leading up to that moment. It made a difference as you got older and could really stick with you. Signature scents for brands or colognes are very complex. For example, Polo, the cologne I just mentioned, includes a mix of about 20 different smells, including coriander, pine, leather, jasmine, geranium, and frankincense. Also patchouli, which you may or may not have noticed was in there. If you want to find out the ingredients and notes in your favorite perfume or cologne, there is a link in the show notes. If you don't work in marketing or branding, you might not know that scent marketing and scent logos are a thing. When I say the name of some brands, though, like Abercrombie & Fitch, The Body Shop, or Lush, you might have had a smell automatically come to your mind. Did you? Other brands do this too, but they might not be quite as robust as some of the others I just mentioned. In the case of Lush, I actually have a funny story to show you the power of scent. One of my favorite restaurants is P.F. Chang's. For those of you who are not in the States, it's a very Americanized Chinese food, but they have great gluten-free options, and I'm a fan. Anyway, the location I used to visit most in downtown Seattle was next to a Lush for a long time. And for any of you unfamiliar with Lush, they sell bath products, and you've probably smelled them if you've ever walked through a mall. It is potent, to say the least. I have never purchased anything from Lush or actually gone inside of one that I can recall, and would often try to just hold my breath and kind of run past them to get to P.F. Chang's or any other destination when they were in close proximity because the scent is so powerful. So I more thought of them as an annoyance than anything, sorry Lush, and a scent keeping me away from getting to the delicious Chinese food awaiting me. And then one day, while I was traveling somewhere, I was walking through a mall or somewhere where I walked by a Lush, and I could definitely smell it, of course. And all of a sudden, I felt my mouth start to water, and I was craving P.F. Chang's. My brain had associated the scent of Lush with delicious Chinese food, even though I thought I hated it. So, just like priming from earlier in the day can impact the way someone interacts with your business, scent priming from other interactions someone has can impact the way they think of your business or how they associate your business in the world. There was a really fascinating article in Inc. magazine with some amazing results of studies incorporating scents in their brands. And I'm pretty much just going to read this list to you, but there's a link in the show notes for the full article if you want to check it out. A net cost supermarket in Brooklyn, New York installed scent air machines on the walls to infuse the store with aromas of foods that would entice customers, like grapefruit in the produce section or chocolate in the candy aisle. The store's merchandise coordinator reported that sales went up at least 7% since they were installed. In another study, 2 identical pairs of shoes were placed in 2 identical rooms. One was scented with a floral fragrance and the other had no fragrance. And by an 84% margin, customers preferred the shoes in the scented room and estimated their value to be, on average, $10.33 higher than the identical shoes in the unscented room. In the mid-90s, Dr. Alan R. Hirsch conducted an experiment with scented and unscented slot machines, the areas in Las Vegas casino, and found that the amount gambled in the scented area increased by more than 45%. As a side note, pretty much every Las Vegas casino has a branded scent that they use. And I know that Monte Carlo, they actually bottle and sell that if you want to bring the scent of Monte Carlo home, you can bring that in with air fresheners and things like that. So your house can smell like the Monte Carlo all the time. A convenience store, next study here, that started pumping the smell of coffee near the gas pumps saw coffee purchases increase 300%. Various studies have found that pleasant ambient odors have a variety of positive effects on people's behavior. One study found that shoppers were more willing to help strangers outside of a bakery than a clothing store. Another found people were more willing to help when in the presence of appealing scents like roasting coffee or baking cookies. Researchers from Northumbria University found that subjects performing various information processing tasks did so faster and more accurately when their cubicle was diffused with rosemary essential oil. Volunteers in one other study performed puzzle-solving tasks 17% faster after exposure to floral fragrances. And in another study, people can remember a scent and its related memory with 65% accuracy after 12 months, while visual recall was only 50% accurate after just 4 months. So the scent memory was 65% accurate after a year, and that visual was down to 50% after just 4 months. Lastly, 63% of MRI patients who inhaled a vanilla aroma reported reduced anxiety before a procedure, compared to just 4% of patients who didn't. That was 63% to 4% feeling reduced anxiety. Clearly, scent has a lot of benefit for brands when done right. But you can't just throw a scent around and expect it to do wonders. The association matters. A feminine scent in a women's clothing store will do better to increase sales than if it was in a sporting goods store or in a restaurant. And the scent of lemon is more likely to encourage people to order seafood in a restaurant that sells it, but it can also encourage people to clean up after themselves in a different context. If you have a physical location, the scent you infuse makes a huge difference, and you want to make sure it ties in with your goals. And know that even if there are a lot of scents in a location, you can typically only smell one item over everything else with brands that use scent marketing. For example, do you ever smell anything but coffee in a Starbucks, or hot buttered popcorn at the movie theater, or fries at McDonald's? Some of their other smells could be very powerful, like pizza, if they were allowed to emanate, but effort is put into making sure the prominent scent, the one they want to be part of their brand, the memories they want to be tying to, they want that to stand out, so that is what you smell. There are companies you can hire just like those that provide music in your location, and actually some of them offer both services, who are expert in the science of scent branding to help you choose the best signature scent for you. It does cost money, yes, but it can make a big difference when executed correctly. In one of my old jobs at the credit union, I was looking into scent marketing, and because we had orange in our branding, I wanted to make sure we used more of a citrusy scent when we were starting to look into this, to trigger the association between the color of orange and the scent of orange and how that can all come together. So there are a lot of different things you have to think about, and that's why you would want to hire an expert who knows all the different associations of what one scent could trigger in one person versus somebody else and how that impacts your brand. As you've seen from the outlined examples, this is used by hotels, airlines, grocery stores, movie theaters, restaurants, department stores, casinos, and everything in between to create an experience for the visitors. And it's not the same. So from one grocery store to the next, from one restaurant to another, from one department store or movie theater to another, it's not going to always be the same because it has to do with what they're trying to evoke. And if you're trying to buy cars, new car smell, it's a thing, right? The right smell can do wonders. One study looked specifically into hotels to determine what helped to make people want to stay at a particular chain again. Visual stimuli mattered, of course, but scent had a huge impact as well. Think about it. Have you ever walked into a hotel room that looked beautiful, but had it smell like cigarette smoke or mold or mothballs? I think we all have. And as a side note, when I said some of those words, did you feel your nose crinkle up a little? Let's try again. Moldy, mildewy mothballs. Anything? That shows the power of scent, even when you can't smell. So back to this particular study. If you go to a hotel room and it's gorgeous, just beautiful, but it smells like dead fish, you will not want to stay there again, or even that night probably. Bad scents can impact all sorts of behavior and make it difficult for you to really focus on or do anything else. Another study found that when exposed to good smells, subjects had greater recall of brands, particularly ones they had never heard of, so fake brands that were used in the test. And when there was a bad smell, there was almost no recall or attention at all on anything. As I've said in my It's Not About the Cookie series, a good smell can be positive, but a really bad smell, like burnt popcorn in an office, can make it so everyone loses focus and can't pay attention on anything. And this is not just unique to humans. Rats have been shown to learn things faster when they are associated with scents they like. At the end of the day, our world and the way we think about it impacts everything we do. Our memories and particular scents can trigger emotions. Have you ever noticed at the holidays, like when I'm recording this episode right now, go figure, that all sorts of different types of stores, from grocery stores to craft stores or toy stores, they will have cinnamon-scented pine cones, typically, but items for sale in really large baskets or bags right by the front entry of the store. The smell is very noticeable when you walk in, and it is absolutely intentional. They want everyone to walk in and smell that scent, which triggers memories of the holidays and generosity and gift giving, and it can impact your buying behavior. And don't forget, just saying the right words or showing an image of someone smelling an item and either smiling or making a funny face can trigger mirror neurons and scent memory. I've mentioned mirror neurons a couple times on the podcast in the past. There will be an episode on this coming up soon, I promise. Essentially, this is when if you see someone get a paper cut, your brain reacts as if you got a paper cut. It lights up in a certain way. These are mirror neurons reacting. I'm going to talk about this more actually on next week's episode on taste, which is another reason why you don't want to miss that one, even if you do not sell food items that people can eat. Mirror neurons are also the reason why your nose might have crinkled up a little when I said the words moldy, musty mothballs earlier. And maybe they did it again just now. But this can be a good thing. If you like the Food Network, for example, they are tasked with using trigger words that can influence food memories to make people hungry or want to try out a certain recipe. You'll notice they tell stories of their childhood and how their grandmother used to make whatever this was, and they remembered sitting around the table and all these different memories they're bringing in to help trigger your memories, emotions, scents, and tastes that all tie in together. And they choose those words very carefully to help paint a picture for your brain. And really strong scents we know and love can be triggered without words at all. Watching bacon sizzle on TV could make you crave it even when you can't smell it, but you sure feel like you can, don't you? If you don't sell food and you don't have a physical location, it is still important to know the power of scent. Putting lemons in your ads can trigger different memories: cleanliness, sourness, carefree summer days, drinking lemonade, and you can use those emotions to prime behavior if you want to. But if you use them willy-nilly, it could absolutely backfire. So you want to be smart, strategic, and intentional with any of those words or images or smells to make sure they're in alignment with your overall brand plan and the intent of the message. And if you would like help with this, you're not alone. This is the type of thing I work with my clients on in our virtual strategy sessions. And don't forget, now is the perfect time to up-level your brand with a series of strategy sessions in 2019 for up to 20% off. Instead of $4.99 for each strategy session, they're as low as $400 a piece if you know up front you want to do 12. And for 6 sessions, they are discounted to 10% off to be $450 a piece, which is a really great deal. If you do all 12, you actually save $1,200 for the year, which is amazing. But you do have to commit before the end of this year, 2018. So if you're thinking about making an investment in your business by taking me up on the offer, simply send an email to melina@thebrainybusiness.com. And even if you just felt a little twinge, a thought of maybe, but you're not sure, please just send me an email. Anyway, we can have a conversation, see if you're a fit. I promise I will not encourage anyone to work with me that's not going to get well above the value of the cost of those sessions. And we can see if it makes sense. There's no obligation to buy if you send an email, and we can just start a conversation, and you might just still get a shout out. I'm so excited to work with you in 2019 and help incorporate behavioral economics into your business, making it more brain friendly. Again, that email is melina@thebrainybusiness.com. Or if you feel more comfortable, you can find me on social media and send me a direct message on either Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, where you can find me as The Brainy Biz, B-I-Z. All right, that's it. Episode 25 on smell is complete. Next week on episode 26, as I said, we're going to dive into the sense of taste, and I'm going to give you your first real hint at those mirror neurons and dig into some studies that are really, really fascinating. You're not going to want to miss that. Even if you don't have an item for people to taste in your business, it will absolutely still impact your business, and you won't want to miss out. Until then, thanks again for listening and learning with me. And remember to be thoughtful.
Thank you for listening to the Brainy Business Podcast. Melina offers virtual strategy sessions, workshops, and other services to help businesses be more brain friendly. For more free resources, visit thebrainybusiness.com.